Hey viewers, it's your half-assed reporter, guy on the bike, James Kalm. And we're gonna sneak in here to Sideshow. Let's see if the guy's here. We're gonna get a run-through of an exhibition by this gentleman. Smile. Art Guerra. Okay. We'll come in and do a run over the installation. Well, it's sweltering outside. It's about 96 degrees. It's hot. And, well, I was running around looking for some openings, and a lot of the galleries are closed just because they can't take the heat. However, Sideshow is pretty cool. Mr. Art, sorry to disturb you. You ready for a little explication? You want to give us a tour, please?
On a hot day like this,
yeah.
These paintings remain cool and act like air conditioners.
All right.
Because of the glass, they have a lot of glass in them.
Well, come with me and we'll talk about some of these, and I'll do what I usually do, which is ask embarrassing questions.
Okay.
First of all, why don't you tell us a little bit about your practice and how you got started in using this, well, these unusual materials. We're talking about glass,
Okay.
but you're doing things. This has got shredded rubber and.
Okay, see these fragments? These are glass flakes that slide along the surface and kind of release their energy, which is they release a lot of reflective glass flakes, and they slide on the surface.
Does this piece have a title?
Does this have a title? What's the title of this?
This is titled Green and Violet?
Green violet, yeah.
And this is what, 5 by 6 feet, something like that?
Yeah, close to that.
60 by 71.
But all these screaming colors are like that because there's an aluminum base, and that creates a reflective pigment, and also is aluminum on top of glass flake. So you're getting a double, maybe even triple whammy.
What adheres the aluminum to the glass? Is there some kind of a chemical process? Is there an adhesive?
Well,
is the glass dyed?
No, no.
Is the aluminum in like an oxide form? I mean, how does this all come together?
It's well, it probably is an aluminum oxide, but it's a state-of-the-art aluminum which is used on cars. But it's water-based, so it works with just about anything.
Come with me, we're going to move down the line here. One of the things I'd like to talk about briefly is, okay, so we've just been discussing the fact that what you're dealing with here are a lot of actually glass balls, glass pellets of various sizes, so probably going from maybe 1/4 of an inch down to maybe a 32nd of an inch, even smaller.
Right. 6 millimeter.
A lot of people would question whether or not this is painting. Do you consider this painting, or do you consider this collage?
No, I consider it painting.
So basically, your idea of the painting is you're just dealing with like something that is like a pigment, analogous to a pigment, except that these particles are larger, so your particles of color go all the way up to being a quarter of an inch
Right. For me,
circumference.
I feel that pigments can come in all sizes, right? So you go down to a powder, all the way up to these balls that are, I think, 6 millimeters.
Now, does this piece have a title?
Does it have a title?
It's Gold Painting Lost in Hollywood.
Gold painting lost in
Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Lost in Hollywood.
Okay.
Right. What's interesting in this gold painting is that it has a newly developed gold pigment called Leonis gold, and I've never seen it for sale. Only it's used a lot on cars and I don't know, whatever.
We're going to keep moving down here. Don't tell me this one is violet something or okay.
It's called smaller blue.
Smaller blue.
Yes, smaller blue.
Smaller blue. And this is generously coated with polycarbonate urethane.
Is that what you're using to bind these,
Yes.
your little balls of
Right.
pigment or your glass balls?
Polycarbonate urethane. And it's considered one of the kings of urethanes.
The king of urethania.
Yeah. Made by a Dutch company. Look at this one hanging here. It could fall off. Who knows?
So tell me about the show. How long have you been working on this particular body of work?
This is about 6 to 8 years worth.
6 to 8 years worth of work.
Right.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I actually covered one of your shows that you did out in Bushwick. I think it was 1717 Bushwick. I forget the name of the little space.
Sugar Gallery.
Sugar Gallery.
Run by
This is what, 8 or 9 years ago? Gwendolyn.
I'm not sure of her last name.
Selwyn?
Gwendolyn.
So you're using your glass. Most of these pellets have the color is actually permanently kind of bonded onto there.
Well, they're mostly phthalates and quinacridones and a blue pigment called indanthrone blue.
Indanthrone?
Yeah, and that again is considered one of the king of blues. People think that cobalt is the highest you can go on the blue scale, but the truth is that indanthrone is an amazing pigment because it's...
Is that like coming from the same base word as indigo, which is actually a darker blue than either cobalt blue or ultramarine blue?
It is an indigo type pigment, but it's the most expensive blue that there is.
Okay, let's keep moving along here.
This green is a total pearlescent pigment. It's totally covers.
Okay, so none of the balls have any what I would call transparent. This has all got translucent color coating every aspect of this.
What they call opalescent, but it's they're pearlescent pigments, and they tend to be more opaque rather than transparent, like the previous paintings we were looking at.
Yes.
were very, very transparent.
Yes, we can
And-
see that at the color quality.
Right, but this is an opaque pearlescent pigment
And I
on
think
glass balls.
one of the interesting things I think for our viewers would be to know about, you're so involved with this, it's because you've been making paint and different kinds of resins and solvents and stuff like that. You want to talk a little bit maybe about your history as a paint manufacturer?
Well, I learned about paint manufacturing when I was doing murals, and the paint was horrendous. And
All right, keep coming with me. Horrendous
so-
paint.
So I began to get paint from a lot of the paint factories in New Jersey, big industrial companies.
And how long ago was this?
This was about 35 years ago, which is quite a ways back.
Yeah, I remember a mural that you painted on St. Mark's Place,
Right, Gringo.
Gringo. That's right. It was quite well recognized at the time.
Right.
So you're 35 years ago, you're doing murals, but you can't find any good paint, so you started digging in
started-
and playing around with
Right,
your own
making-
concoctions.
Right, and I got some paint manufacturers to teach me fundamentals of paint making and pigment, what they call pigment dispersing.
Pigment dispersing,
Right, which means
kind of
you
like
take
spreading
powder-
spreading the wealth, redistribution of pigment. Okay.
This is what's this one called? Bright blue or something?
What's that called? It's called dark snarly blue.
Oh,
Dark, snarly blue.
Right. The reason it's snarly, and I think there's a little sentence after that, which is gloves not included. Because if you want to pick this up and move it around,
Right,
you
it
have to
looks-
be careful you don't cut your hand.
That's what I was saying. This one looks like it's got flat surfaces and just broken shards of
Right.
colored glass in there rather than just all
they're-
balls. Actually, I like that because I like the way that those flat facets sparkle, which is different than you would have, say, with this one over here, where everything is
Everything is round.
a bead. I like the sparkle, although it does make the color read differently. Okay, we're going to look at this is another large piece. Do we have a title?
Red, yellow, indigo.
Red, yellow, indigo. How long would you work on something like this, Art?
Oh, a month or two.
And do you work on these basically laying horizontal on the ground and sort of
Usually they're-
apply the resin and then pour things on them, or do you have them standing up on the wall?
I
And
don't pour. I'm not a pourer.
you're not a pourer.
No. Usually I work with gloves on my hands, and I put it on the painting, and usually it's on the floor, maybe a foot or two off the ground, and milk crates, on milk crates. What's interesting about this painting is that the color is very bright, but I'm not using any fluorescent pigments.
This is a beautiful one. I like it, kind of the aqua blue. And this also is one where you've got the shards of glass rather than just all
These are glass plates,
beads.
which produce a reflection. The round glass balls kind of produce a more subtle round reflection.
More like a halo
Yeah.
rather than a straight reflection.
Whereas
Yeah,
the
okay.
shards give you a straight reflection, and they have very transparent green on them. You can see how they're slightly green. you know.
So I guess what I was wondering about is that, I guess is a term called a schmalti.
Schmalti.
Schmalti, which is a particle that is not an actual pigment, but it has a pigment dyed onto it.
Well, okay.
And that was, I think that was the term, a schmalti.
I mean, I think you're getting it confused with.
Okay.
I don't think they're schmalti, but actually they're not dyed on there.
Okay. They come that color, yeah.
No, they don't come that color. I make the color.
You do make the color.
Yeah. This is the last painting I did before the show. And it has some very interesting pigments like these, which are highly reflective pearlescent pigments that give you a variety of colors.
And how long have you been working with the glass beadwork and then the glass?
15 years.
15 years. And all of the resins and the other various things that you use, they're all acrylic or water based. You don't do any oil or
No.
or solvent based
I find that with water
pieces.
Water can be an enemy because it can be hydrophobic.
Really?
Yeah. And so it's up to you to turn the water into a friend that will do all sorts of incredible things.
This is kind of an interesting duo here.
Those are what dispersing agents and wetting agents do. They make water friendlier, and it's something I think that artists have never really understood because they don't get those kind of chemicals which are called surfactants or surface active chemicals. Okay, and they allow you to use lots of materials that otherwise you wouldn't be able to use.
This is a nice piece, and this is a little different for you because a lot of the work is, I'm not going to say that it's monochrome, but it is more of a slightly gradated field, whereas this you've actually started to get these leaf forms or pod forms in here.
Well, that's
And
actually
also, is this a recent piece?
no, this is the oldest piece.
This is
here.
the oldest piece.
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, I'm looking at this surface here, and you've got this very nice dry.
Quality.
Yeah. Now, is that
No,
ultramarine or is that cobalt blue?
No,
Actually, it makes me think of
ultramarine.
Klein International blue.
Yeah, it is Klein International, but don't tell him. Okay?
Oh, we won't tell him. Yeah, he's going to come and want his royalties for the paint formula. And this
but-
painting has got to be. This is about what? 8 feet
8 feet.
tall, 8 by 4, something like that.
Yeah.
And how old is this, Art? This is
It's about, I don't know, 8 years old.
8 years.
No, it's 2014.
Oh,
2004.
so it's 4 years.
Okay. I think it's older than that. But I don't know. It's called The Flight of the Jalapenos. Where it used to have another name too, The Fight of the Jalapenos. But I think they're just flying around.
Okay. We're going to keep moving on. You know, you were talking about how important the chemistry is for you and how that many artists that you know don't know anything about chemistry. What would be your take on the idea that painting in a certain way is related to alchemy? You ever thought about things like that?
Yeah, I tend to think about that all the time. It's interesting to expect some kind of miracle to happen, and sometimes it does, and it'll slap you across the face. But the miracle really is that you can get new, interesting surfaces that nobody's ever seen before, instead of just kind of doing the Renaissance kind of figurative painting that seems to be big again. I'm really, really interested in what paint can do. And
Well, for example, I think this is interesting because you've got a lot more of the smaller, more granulated balls in here, and yeah, the way that they reflect the light and the way that they project their color is different than something where you've got larger balls reflecting. Okay, we're going to keep just kind of drifting around here and looking at some of these.
this is called Big Red, and it's the heaviest painting here. Probably weighs around 200 pounds.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't ask me why, but I guess it just has a lot of glass and balls and stuff. You know, I kind of just kept going and going and going.
Well, when do you realize, or when does it dawn on you that you're done?
Sometimes you're never kind of done, but somebody will grab the painting from you and say, "It's done!" And then you gotta like go, okay. That's my phone.
Okay. Oh, this is another nice one, but of course I look at this and I think about caviar.
Caviar, wow. I know, wouldn't caviar and martinis go great today?
Yes, they would. I'm also, I'm fascinated by, I was saying that some of these almost have the appearance of a monochrome or something, and in that way they relate to some of the work of somebody like a Milton Resnick or even late Monet's or something. When I get up and look at them closely, though, there is an amazingly broad spectrum of colors. So you've got a dark blue, you've got kind of a blue violet, you've got a turquoise blue, aqua blue, and then that fades into the violet, rose, magenta side of things. And but then as you stand back, they start to meld together, and you just have this kind of a orchestrated harmonies of color that, none of them really jump out. They all kind of meld together. Okay, we're going to keep moving down the wall. Let's wrap up looking at this piece. Do we have a title for this?
It's called My Boyhood Aquarium.
Nice title. I had mentioned people like Milton Resnick or even late Monet. Is there anybody else that, or anybody that you might think of, any traditional painters that, or maybe contemporary people that you might think about when you're doing your work?
I like Lenny. What's his name? He just had a show at Michael Daly.
Oh, you're talking about Lynn Bellinger.
Yeah.
Yes, Lynn Bellinger.
He bought this one.
How about that one? Oh, no, we like Lynn. He's got a couple of mine.
He actually owns 3 of my pieces, which is amazing. But
Also, I'm noticing, and so in this one, it seems like you're kind of playing with the idea of smaller, more granulated, or maybe it's just the way the light is coming across here, smaller, more granulated particles, and then sort of as you drift down across to this side,
I think
suddenly you're kind of hitting more clear balls and also larger spheres.
Okay, these smears are smears of flakes of glass that have metallic aluminum and also, say, a violet, transparent.
So
violet.
is that, you take your acrylic resin and you throw some kind of the shards of glass in there and then you peel that off and throw that in there, or do you
No.
buy this as actual sheets of something and then?
Yeah, and you just smear them with your hand. Most of these paintings were painted, with my hand covered in a glove, they're painted flat on the floor, and they're painted for a couple of weeks. I keep trying new things, trying to get this kind of surface space. Things on top of things on top of things. But it's all about transparency. And a lot of the pigments that I use are super transparent pigments.
Yes.
They're not diluted pigments, diluted with, say, a cadmium, which is opaque, but rather they're quinacridones. This is a quinacridone. This is a quinacridone. And this one here is probably a green gold. But they're all super transparent pigments.
Okay. Art Guerra, does the show have a title?
Late work or something like that.
Late work?
New work.
Recent work?
Recent work.
Something like that? Here at Sideshow, in the heart of Williamsburg.
This is my last piece.
You can like this, subscribe, and share. And you can leave your comments, criticisms, reviews, ideas, discussion points below. And as always, we ask you to help us. Thank you, Kate. We're going to throw in a little tiny bonus nugget here. We're in the back room at Honey Ramka. What's the address? 52 Bogart Street. I happened to pop in last weekend and I saw some paintings by Michelle Arlos. And I like what Michelle is doing, so I thought I'd come back and give you viewers a chance to see a few of her paintings. Well, I've been talking with the gallerist here, and he was talking about how Michelle applies the paint with a tiny little paintbrush. And when I was in last week, we were actually talking about an artist named Jess, famous San Francisco artist. I think he passed away about 10 or 12 years ago, who I think this work kind of relates to. Do we have a title for this piece?
Dream of Interpretations Winter.
Dream of Interpretations Winter, and don't tell me it's 28 by 22?
30 by 24.
Okay.
Very good.
30 by 24, okay. As I understand it, the idea was that Michelle was as an avid reader and was thinking, geez, if the books could have dreams, what would the dreams that the books would have look like? Do we have a title for this piece?
Dreams of Interpretations Fall.
Okay, Dreams of Interpretations Fall. It's nice, we got kind of a color shift here. And this one is probably also 24, a little smaller, 22 by 26 maybe, something like that.
20 by 24.
20 by 24. Okay. And we'll wrap up looking at a couple of Michelle's drawings. Now, these look like, is this a Sharpie?
Sharpie.
Looks like it. On photo paper. Okay, that was your bonus. Michelle Arlos in the back room here at Honey Ramka, 52 Bogart Street in Bushwick. 56, sorry. Thank you.